this debate that I've ignited today, the opposition saying Samvidhan khatre mein hai, the government saying this is a day to celebrate our constitutional democracy. Do you believe the Constitution has served India well over the last 7 decades and a half, or are there infirmities in the way the Constitution is actually being implemented by the executive in particular?
Rajiv, there are two questions which shouldn't be conflated. The Constitution has served us well. The answer is an unequivocal yes. Have we served the Constitutional well at all times? Questionable.
What do you mean by we? Because I used this quote earlier of Nani Palkhiwala, the great jurist, who said, it is not, we have a first-rate constitution, but it is the people who have, in a sense, failed the constitution, or rather the elected representatives who failed the constitution.
Of course, when emergency was declared in 1975, it was not the failing of the constitution. Every constitution has provisions to deal with emergencies. Now, if we declare a phony emergency, it's we who are failing the Constitution. It's not that the Constitution is failing us. The Constitution is meant to accommodate all kinds of thinking. You can have leftist leaning, rightist leaning. You can have different definitions of government. And it is for good reason that the framers of the Constitution didn't add controversial and ambiguous words like secular and socialist and all this in the preamble. And I'm personally always been a trenchant critic of these amendments. And I don't know whether if you read Mr. Palkhiwala's speech, he was a trenchant critic of the amendment to the preamble also. And nobody can doubt his commitment to constitutional values.
Right.
So have we served the Constitution well? I must say, we are 75. India is 75. We've changed so many. In 2 recent lectures, I did a little research and found out we have changed 15 prime ministers using a ballot. We've had 15 prime ministers, I think, in the last 75 years. We've changed governments. We've changed from all complexions of government. We had Congress-dominated majority governments. We had coalition governments. Now you have a BJP-dominated majority government. You've had majoritarian governments. You had Rajiv Gandhi with, I think he had possibly the largest.
That's right.
Largest. And the Constitution accommodates all of this. And
no, but the fear, Mr. Salve, is, are we now conflating the fact that we have elections every 5 years, prime ministers across parties are elected, with the criticism that slowly but surely we are becoming an electoral autocracy where fundamental rights of the citizens get undermined, where it's no longer a level playing field when it comes to Indian democracy? Are we an elected autocracy? Do you believe that we are veering towards that? Is there a democratic recession that you see?
So, first of all, the Constitution, no Constitution in the world, unfortunately, which provides for elected government has a level playing field. Do all the people who contest elections, and there's so much talent out there which never makes it to parliament, because you don't have a level playing field. There are certain things inherent to an electoral democracy. Do you think every American has equal right to become president of America? In theory, yes. In practice, no. Do you think everybody in the United Kingdom is much smaller with a much larger number of MPs? Your cost outlay is much lesser. I have for decades been an advocate of state funding of elections. And when I say state funding of elections, you don't necessarily have to write checks. You can make common facilities available, which the Election Commission can disburse, etc., etc. That's a debate for another day. But we don't want to talk about that because everybody, when he is in government, doesn't want to create a level playing field. You realize the unevenness of the field only when you're on the wrong side of the field.
Sir, but you know, the concept of elections is only one part of the Constitution. It's about ensuring that the fundamental rights of citizens are protected. Concepts that Ambedkar put out of equality, liberty, fraternity. Do you believe those concepts are really being observed in letter and spirit by indeed the lawmakers or indeed the law of this country, the judges of this country, or are there serious lacunae there?
Well, in theory, the constitutional rights are all in place. And after the Coelho judgment, we have locked in the constitutional rights. They cannot even be amended. How are the constitutional rights to be protected? The one area where the judiciary has, in one sense, supremacy is enforcement of constitutional rights. That is why Ambedkar did something very unusual for the Indian Constitution. He expressly conferred the power of judicial review of legislation. We didn't have to invent it like the Americans did in Marbury and Madison. Our courts have a right to strike down legislation if it violates fundamental rights. That was a very important step. And two, the right to move the Supreme Court itself was made a fundamental right in Article 32. So, by which the signal of the Constitution was, where it comes to constitutionally defined fundamental rights, the judiciary is the last word. And I must say, especially post Krishna Iyer, the development of our fundamental rights jurisprudence is a marvel. And the world respects for what our courts have developed our system. We've read in gender justice, we've read in due process, we've read in the right to privacy, and so on and so forth. But if you find today that there is an overall feeling that the Supreme Court is failing to protect the Constitution, we need to go back and see, and there is a lot which is troubling the judiciary today. And
so what is the biggest challenge? In conclusion, what according to you is the biggest challenge in a way that will, for those who would like to see the letter and the spirit of the Constitution actually translate into concrete action on the ground?
See, first of all, I think our political system needs to be a little more responsible. If the last word on the constitutional rights has been given to the judiciary, you cannot say, I as a politician will define what is my understanding of the fundamental right. And if the Supreme Court doesn't agree with me, the system doesn't work. Today, we've reached either you're with us or you're with them kind of an attitude in public life. Either it's my truth and your truth. If you agree with me, you're a great judiciary. If you don't agree with me, you're a subservient judiciary. Now, that's not the way for approaching, at least for senior people in public life, for approaching. Yes, you can criticize the judgment, saying, here are the intellectual flaws in this judgment. And we have a debate. Democracy is all about many voices. Democracy is all about debate. And the Supreme Court, least of all, should be about criticism. Least of all. Because the Supreme Court is the last word of the law. And they have to be criticized. Their judgments have to be criticized if you find them wrong. Not on a broad base saying, oh, I'm so sorry, Supreme Court has decided against me. But go to the judgment and say, this is where they've gone. I say, for example, the Supreme Court judgment, which upheld some draconian powers of the Enforcement Directorate, is a disaster. I say so, and I can give you very strong, it's a debate for another day, but I can give you strong intellectual reasons where the Supreme Court has gone wrong, not because I don't like the face of the judge, but because I say this is where the Supreme Court has gone intellectually wrong. Bail cases where Supreme Court has denied bail, I've always said, where did this drift happen from Krishna Iyer's bail, not jail? Where have we gone into jail, not bail?
So that's exactly where you've hit the nail in the sense in that last answer. What you're calling for is at least some element of introspection amidst the celebration of Constitution Day. Am I correct?
Of course. See, I celebrate my Constitution because it calls for introspection every single day. Since you started by quoting my guru, let me tell you what he always said. He used to always say, democracy is a ceaseless endeavor. It's not a safe harbor. Democracy means debate all the time.
Very fascinatingly put there. And I think quoting Nani Palkhiwala is a nice way on this Constitution Day to remember one of our foremost jurists. And he, in a sense, sends out a message to all of us that we have to continue to be sentinels in a way to ensure that our Constitution is not abused. Yes, very quickly.
Only one thing.
Yes.
Only one last thing. There's only one time when the Constitution was seriously under threat. And that was 1975 and the court catapulted. Who saved democracy? You and me and our Previous generations saved democracy. Ultimately, even the political system knew this was unsustainable in India. Till that fire of democracy burns in your heart, burns in my heart, and burns in the heart of our fellow Indians, our constitution is safe.